If you'd have told me a year ago that I'd be sitting in my garage, lights off, engine cold, drinking a warm beer at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, trying to piece together my marriage like a crime scene, I'd have laughed in your face. Because back then, I had what everyone said they wanted. A nice house in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway, a smart thermostat that listened better than most people, and a wife who wore my last name like it meant something. Jennifer had that kind of personality that made people feel like they were being seen, even if they weren't. Especially if they weren't. She had this knack for making small talk feel like therapy. Strangers loved her. My coworkers flirted with her at Christmas parties, politely, of course, the HR-friendly kind of way. She always smiled and brushed it off, but I saw the looks. And I laughed them off, because I was the one she came home to. We'd been married 10 years. No kids, by choice. We told people we were focused on our careers, which was a neat little excuse that kept the dinner table interrogations to a minimum. Truth was, we just liked each other. Or I thought we did. The funny thing about normal is how invisible it becomes. You stop noticing the daily routines. The text that always comes at 11:47 a.m. saying, lunch was meh. The pile of mail on the counter she always meant to sort. The way she put her phone face down on the table, not suspiciously, just habitually. I lived in that normal like a fish lives in water, never thinking to question it. Then came the invitation. Our friend Lauren was turning 40. Big backyard bash, catered, with one of those DIY photo booths and neon signs that said things like, life begins at 40. The kind of party where people pretend to hate aging while holding a $16 mimosa in one hand and filming their fake laugh with the other. I almost didn't go. I had a stomach bug, or maybe just a gut feeling, but Jennifer insisted. Come on, it'll be fun. You've been working too much. And she was right. I had been. I worked in logistics. Boring on paper, but oddly addictive in real life. Optimizing truck routes scratches the same itch as solving puzzles. Jennifer worked in marketing, which meant she could make anything, even toothpaste, sound like a lifestyle choice. That night at the party, I watched her move through the crowd. Not in a creepy way. And that's my wife, and I still can't believe she picked me kind of way. She laughed too hard at someone's joke. Touched a guy's arm as she talked. Nothing inappropriate. But too much of nothing starts to look like something. And maybe it would have ended there. Maybe I would have just chalked it up to party buzz and let it slide. But then something happened that I couldn't explain away. We got home late. I was half drunk, exhausted, ready to crawl into bed and forget the socializing ever happened. Jennifer said she had emails to catch up on, just 20 minutes, she promised. I fell asleep before she came to bed. At 3:18 a.m., I woke up. The bed was empty. I checked the kitchen, the office, even the backyard. Nothing. Then I saw the light in the garage. She was sitting in her car. Engine off. Windows up. Just sitting there, staring at her phone. She didn't see me watching. When I opened the door, she jumped like she'd been caught stealing. I was just decompressing, she said. Sometimes I need space, Rob. It wasn't the lie that bothered me. It was how normal she made it sound. After that, the signs started adding up. Tiny little things that didn't scream affair, but whispered it. She started leaving earlier for work. Coming home later. Said her team had a new campaign, lots of late nights. I believed her. Sort of. Then there was her birthday. I'd planned a weekend getaway in the Catskills. Rustic Airbnb, fireplace, no cell signal. Her idea of heaven, usually. But she couldn't get away. Too much work. Next month, I promise, she said. I canceled the reservation. Ate the deposit. That night, I found a champagne cork in our trash. We hadn't had champagne. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid. I even Googled how to know if your wife is cheating like some desperate Redditor. But the results were all the same tired cliches, lipstick stains, secret phone calls, new lingerie. Jennifer wasn't dumb. If she was cheating, she wasn't using the amateur playbook. So I tried to stop looking. I buried myself in spreadsheets, delivery schedules, supply chain audits. But the quiet moments kept pulling me back. Until something changed. I wasn't the one who found the clue. It was my brother. Nate is a divorced real estate agent who thinks everything is a conspiracy, except for the ones that actually are. He's the kind of guy who calls you at midnight to tell you about a new crypto scam or a woman he met at Whole Foods who might be the one, because she complimented his beard. But that week, Nate was house-sitting for a client in the same gated neighborhood where Jennifer's company had recently landed a big marketing contract. One night, he called me and said, "Hey, you won't believe who I just saw." I didn't want to hear it. He told me anyway. "Jennifer." in yoga pants, walking a golden retriever, with some guy, holding hands. That stopped me cold. We didn't own a dog. Jennifer hated dogs. Said they smelled like wet towels and guilt. I told him he must have been mistaken. He said, Rob, I'm not blind. And I'm not drunk. This was your wife, man. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even hang up. I just said, text me the address. Because that's when I stopped wondering and started planning. The address Nate sent me was a row of townhomes that looked like they'd been pulled off a lifestyle block. Matching fences, planters with seasonal mums, and garages that whispered divorcee in denial. The kind of place you lease when you want to feel like life's still together, but deep down you know it's unraveling. I saved the address without saying a word and didn't drive by. Yet, instead, I waited. That's the thing most people don't get. The truth doesn't just show up gift-wrapped. It leaks. Quietly. Drip by drip. And the dumbest thing you can do is go kicking down doors when you could just watch where the puddles form. So I played it cool. No accusations. No checking phones. No wiretaps or voice recorders like some 90s soap opera. I just started noticing things. Real things. Things you only catch when you stop trusting the story you're being fed and start paying attention to the background noise. It started with the printer. Yeah, that sounds dumb. But hear me out. Our home office printer had been acting up for months. Every time you tried to print anything more than 5 pages, it jammed like a drunk drummer. Jennifer hated it. Complained constantly. I said I'd replace it. Never did. Then one day, I heard it chug to life rapid. No jams, spitting out at least 20 pages. That alone was weird. I walked into the office and saw her shuffling a fresh stack of full-color prints into a folder. She saw me and smiled too quickly. Quarterly reports for the board, she said. We're doing a pitch next week. Except I caught a glimpse of what was on the top page before she closed the folder. A venue layout. Outdoor seating, catering zones, a stage. It was labeled Mock Proposal Presentation, Concept A. Proposal? Jennifer didn't work in event planning. She marketed dental products. Toothpaste, mouthguards, whitening kits. There was no universe where she needed to map out a wedding reception layout. But I didn't say anything. Just smiled and said, Printer's finally cooperating, huh? Miracle, she said, walking off. That's when I started paying attention to her laptop. Not snooping. Just noticing. Jennifer never used her work laptop at home. She had a personal MacBook for emails, Pinterest, and online shopping. But now, she was suddenly using her work device every night, clacking away in the kitchen with her earbuds in. Not Zoom calls. Just silence. Sometimes she smiled at the screen, like a middle schooler texting under the dinner table. Still, I waited. A week later, I found my in. It happened on a Wednesday trash day. I was rolling the bins to the curb when I noticed the blue recycling tote was unusually light. Jennifer always jammed it with packaging from whatever home goods nonsense she was into that week. But this time, it was barely half full. Curious, I opened the lid. Inside was a bundle of glossy brochures tied together with a rubber band. Venue brochures. Not local ones either. Places in Charleston, Savannah, Napa. I pulled out one. Something called Willow Crest Vineyards. Romantic script, golden hour photos, and testimonials like, our forever started here. It didn't make sense. Jennifer and I weren't planning a vow renewal. We weren't even talking about a vacation. And she'd never been into wine. Said it gave her headaches. I stood there, flipping through the pages, trying to put the pieces together. Then I noticed a business card tucked into one of the folders. It had no name, just a handwritten note, confirmed for June, room block secured under Decker. I stared at the word. Decker. That wasn't Jennifer's maiden name. Wasn't a client. Wasn't anyone I knew. But here's the thing. I work in logistics. You don't spend 15 years optimizing truck routes without learning how to dig. Every shipment has a paper trail. Every event has a registry. So I went inside, said nothing, and opened my laptop. It didn't take much. Willow Crest had an online portal. A public-facing event calendar with placeholder labels. Private event, June 14th. I tried registering for a tour. The automated reply came with a contact number. I waited until the next day, then called from my work phone. Hi. I'm trying to confirm a reservation I think my assistant made. It should be under Decker, June 14th. The woman on the line didn't hesitate. Oh yes, that's a full vineyard buyout. Ceremony and reception. We've been coordinating with Jennifer. I froze. Jennifer. Jennifer Evans, she said. Sweet woman. Very detail-oriented. That was her. Jennifer Evans, my wife. Planning a wedding. To someone else. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to see just how far this rabbit hole went. If she was planning a whole new life, I needed to know where the exits were. So I waited until she left the house the next Saturday to run errands, and I opened her personal laptop. I know what I said earlier about not snooping, but this wasn't snooping. It was self-defense. She didn't even have it password protected. There was a desktop folder called Mockups. Inside were PDFs, PowerPoint slides, and a Word doc labeled Vows, Draft. I opened it. The first line read, "From the first time we met at that coffee shop in Charleston, I knew you weren't just a second chance, you were the real thing." Coffee shop in Charleston? I met Jennifer at a mutual friend's barbecue in Ohio. Whoever this speech was meant for, it wasn't me. I kept reading. The whole thing was a love letter to some imaginary life. Beach walks. Inside jokes. You made me believe in love again. I didn't feel angry. I felt stupid. All these years, I thought I was the one who rescued her from loneliness. Turns out, I was the layover. The connecting flight. The guy you settle with until your gate changes. Still, I didn't confront her. Instead, I made a call. Not to her. Not to Nate. I called the florist whose card I found tucked into one of the planning folders. Told her I was finalizing payment on behalf of Decker and needed to confirm the arrangement. She rattled it off like she was reading from a wedding planner script. White roses. Eucalyptus. Blue thistle accents. Wait, I said. The groom's boutonniere, was there a note on that? She paused. Let me check. Yes. No roses for Christian, he hates them. Christian. Christian Decker. That was the name. Now I had something solid. Not just suspicion. A name. A wedding. A date. My wife was planning to marry someone else while still married to me. And the universe? Oh, it wasn't done messing with me yet. Because 2 days later, a package arrived. A set of monogrammed whiskey tumblers with the initial CJD. They weren't for me. Jennifer smiled and said, "Client gift, forgot I sent those here." Sure you did. I waited until she left for hot yoga and opened her desk drawer. There was a small leather notebook inside. Inside the front cover, it read, "Wedding planning J+C." That's all I needed. I closed it, put everything back, and went into the garage. Popped a beer. No music. Just silence. My marriage was over. I knew it. But Jennifer didn't know I knew. Yet. And I planned to keep it that way, at least until I decided how I wanted to end it. With precision. With control. And with style. I always figured if this day ever came, if I ever caught Jennifer cheating, it'd be loud. Me shouting, her crying, maybe a broken vase for dramatic effect. That's how it plays in your head when you think about betrayal. But when the truth's already burned a hole clean through you, there's nothing left to explode. Just ashes. Cold ones. So when I finally decided to confront her, I didn't plan some grand scene. No yelling. No accusations. Just an invitation. Dinner Friday? I asked her on a Tuesday, halfway through reruns of The Office. Haven't had a night out in a while? She glanced at me, suspicious. What's the occasion? Just miss you, I said. She smiled. Forced. Yeah, sure. I'll move some things around. Of course she would. Wouldn't want the husband interfering with whatever fantasy she was juggling. I booked us a reservation at a nice restaurant. Not fancy, just meaningful. The place where we had our first real date. Back when Jennifer still looked at me like I was a surprise, not an obligation. Friday came. She wore a dress I hadn't seen in months, not new, but suspiciously well-fitted. Hair straightened, makeup a little extra. Not for me. For the version of herself she'd been rehearsing. We got there, sat down, ordered drinks. Made small talk about traffic, the new neighbors, the ridiculous property taxes. I let her settle into comfort. Let her pretend everything was fine. Then I pulled a napkin from under my plate and unfolded it onto the table. It had 3 things written on it in my handwriting. 1. Christian Decker. 2. June 14th, Willow Crest. 3. You were the real thing. I watched her eyes read it. Watched the color drain from her cheeks like someone pulled the plug. What's this? She asked, fingers tightening around her fork. You tell me, I said. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Blinked. Swallowed. Then tried the most insulting tactic imaginable, denial. I don't know what this is. Are you accusing me of something? No. I'm confirming it. She scoffed. A performance. Is this supposed to be some kind of joke? No, I said, calmly. But planning a wedding while still married to someone else? That's kind of hilarious, don't you think? She froze. For once, no words. So I helped her out. Christian Decker, I said. Real estate guy. Drives a leased Audi. Likes whiskey neat and apparently hates roses. Met you at a coffee shop in Charleston. Or so your vow draft says. Her mouth opened. Closed. She looked down at the napkin like it might burst into flames and take her with it. She started. Rob, I can explain. You should try. I've got time. That's when the switch flipped. Not to confession. To spin. It's not what you think, she said, voice trembling just enough to trigger sympathy if I were still buying what she was selling. It started. It was just supposed to be a connection. Nothing serious. He made me feel. Oh, please, I cut in. Don't insult both of us with that he made me feel alive garbage. This wasn't about feelings. This was logistics. Scheduling. Backup plans. She flinched. Good. I wasn't done. You picked him out like a second husband starter kit. Vineyard? Check. Matching initials for those cute monogram tumblers? Bonus points. Tears welled up, but I knew that trick. Jennifer could cry on cue. She'd once gotten out of a parking ticket with those tears. You have every right to be angry, Al. I'm not angry, I said, flat. I'm impressed. The dual life thing? It's hard work. The fake meetings, the midnight texting, the fake pitches. You put in the effort. I'll give you that. I never meant to hurt you, Rob. Another classic. Like cheating ever happens by accident. Like it's some emotional trip and fall. So when were you going to tell me? I asked. After the honeymoon? She didn't answer. I was going to file after the pitch next month. I swear. I wasn't going to. Embarrass me? I cut in. Publicly? Let me keep showing up as your husband while you planned a whole new life 2 towns over. She looked at her lap. I was trying to protect you. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Jennifer, if this is you protecting me, I'd hate to see what sabotage looks like. She went quiet. And then, of course, came the question. What do you want to do now? I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd married was gone. Maybe she'd never existed. Maybe she was just a projection I bought into because I needed the idea of her more than I needed the truth. I already did what I want to do, I said, standing. This dinner? This was for you. So you'd have the decency of hearing it from me, not a lawyer. She blinked. What do you mean? I filed this morning. Her eyes widened. You, what? I'm done, Jennifer. I'm not begging. I'm not yelling. I'm just out. You get your new life. You're Vineyard. You're Christian. But you don't get to keep the safety net. You can't just walk away like this. Oh, sweetheart, I said, picking up my coat. Watch me. I left her sitting there, tears welling, mouth open, surrounded by dim lighting and couples clinking glasses. It was almost cinematic. If I had popcorn, I might have stayed to watch her unravel. But I had work to do. Because while Jennifer had been planning a second life, I've been planning something too. Not petty. Not illegal. Just precise. The kind of revenge that doesn't make headlines, but leaves a mark. The kind she'd remember every time she tried to act like she got away clean. Because the one thing you don't do, not to someone like me, is underestimate how smart I can get when I stop pretending not to know. There's a misconception about revenge, that it has to be loud, explosive, that it's only satisfying if it leaves debris. But the most effective revenge is clean, clinical. The kind that doesn't just hurt, it rewires how a person remembers you. Not as the fool they duped, but the knife they didn't see coming. Jennifer never thought I'd leave without a fight. She counted on the dragging drama, the long emotional tailspin, the begging, the pathetic half-broken husband who just wanted answers. That's not what she got. What she got was precision. I'd filed the divorce papers the morning of our dinner. No stalling. No passive-aggressive counseling requests. The paperwork was already at her office the next day via courier. Not her assistant. Not an email. A man in a suit, with her name on a silver envelope. Delivered right to her desk at 10:02 a.m., just in time to ruin her standing meeting. But that was just the kickoff. Step 2 required a little finesse. Jennifer's marketing agency had been running a campaign for a major toothpaste brand. Big client. National rollout. She'd been on the pitch team for 3 months, and I knew, because I actually listened when she talked about work, that she'd taken lead on the new tagline. Confidence starts with the truth. Irony? Please. It just so happened that I'd done some consulting work a year ago for the logistics firm that handled distribution for that toothpaste brand. Still knew the head of operations. A guy named Phil, who played fantasy football like it was a religion and owed me a favor for helping his son get an internship. I sent Phil an email. Very casual. Hey, just wanted to share something I thought you should be aware of, not my business. But you're about to attach your national launch to someone who's currently planning a second wedding while still legally married to her first husband. I attached a screenshot of Jennifer's vows, draft doc. Just the first line. Just enough to raise an eyebrow. No accusations. No gossip. Just context. Phil didn't respond directly, of course. But 3 days later, I heard from a friend of a friend that the account had shifted. Jennifer was off the project. Officially, they said it was client discomfort with tone. Internally, she was radioactive. She didn't know I was behind it. That was the point. Meanwhile, I was surgically removing myself from our life like a ghost with a clipboard. I canceled the joint credit card we never really used, the one she'd kept open just in case. Redirected every bill in my name. Removed my logins from her Netflix, her Amazon, even the Spotify we shared. Petty? Maybe. But why should she get a breakup playlist on my dime? Then I emptied the storage unit. We kept one just outside town. Seasonal junk, sentimental boxes. She hadn't visited it in over a year, but I knew exactly what was in it. Framed wedding photos, our honeymoon scrapbook, and a vintage record player she insisted we couldn't throw away because it's aesthetic. I donated everything, even the record player. Some hipster couple in Silver Lake probably thinks it's haunted. Jennifer texted me 4 days after I left her at that restaurant. Jennifer, can we talk? I didn't respond. The next day, she emailed me a polite, emotionally constipated message asking for time to process everything. She wanted to re-establish a respectful channel for discussion. I let it sit in my inbox. 10 days later, she finally realized I wasn't playing her game. That's when the real panic set in. Jennifer, please don't make this ugly. Funny thing to say, considering she'd already dragged it through the dirt. But see, Jennifer was smart, just not in the ways that mattered now. She didn't realize that while she was orchestrating her double life, I'd been quietly collecting leverage. Take the house. Technically, it was in both our names. But I'd put down the full down payment from my inheritance. And I had the documentation, bank transfers, escrow filings, even the handwritten note she left me at the time. Thank you for making our dream home possible. Sent a copy of that to my attorney. Along with the spreadsheet I'd been quietly updating for months, detailing every household expense I'd covered, every weekend she worked late, every Venmo payment that didn't add up. Jennifer thought I was asleep at the wheel. What she didn't know was that I'd been buckled in, hands at 10 and 2, taking pictures of every passing mile marker. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I was just making sure she couldn't rewrite the story. No, we just drifted. No, Rob was distant. No, I was forced into it. So I started telling the truth. Not publicly. Privately. One by one. Her sister? I called her. Told her everything calmly, plainly. Mentioned Christian by name. Asked if she wanted a copy of the mock wedding layout Jennifer had printed in our home office. Her voice cracked halfway through the call. Not because she didn't believe me, but because she already suspected. Her best friend from college? The one who always looked at me like I'd won the lottery marrying Jennifer? I sent her a simple message. Me. Hey, just wanted to clear the air. I know about Christian. You don't have to pretend around me. Hope you're doing okay. She replied 10 minutes later. Best friend. Rob, I had no idea. I am so sorry. Right. Of course not. I didn't go scorched earth. I didn't post anything online. I didn't make a scene. I just quietly lit candles in the dark until her whole second life became fully illuminated and hard to explain away. Jennifer finally called me one night. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Rob, I don't even know who you are anymore. You're acting like a stranger. Like none of this meant anything to you. I listened to it twice, then deleted it. I wasn't a stranger. She just never bothered to meet the real me. The one who noticed every time she said she was tired, but her phone lit up at midnight. The one who picked up the trash she left on the porch, folded her sweaters, restocked the fridge with her favorite yogurt. The man she married, and then bet against. Let her keep her monogrammed glasses. Let Christian toast to a woman who'd already been a wife before she ever became his bride. They could have the vineyard, the vows, the curated guest list full of people who didn't know the full story. But I knew. And so did she now. Because revenge doesn't have to be shouted. Sometimes it's just the sound of a perfectly quiet exit. 2 weeks passed before I agreed to see her. By then, the dust had settled. Not in her world. Hers was still spinning, but in mine. I'd already moved into a small one-bedroom not far from the old place. It was quiet, functional, anonymous. The kind of apartment you use as a launch pad, not a home. And honestly, that's all I needed. Just somewhere to be that wasn't beside her. She emailed. Again. Then her lawyer called mine. Not about assets. Not about logistics. Just a request. She wants to talk to you. Face to face. I almost laughed. The audacity. But I said yes. Not because I owed her anything, but because I was curious. About what version of herself she'd bring this time. The contrite victim? The misunderstood dreamer? Or maybe, finally, just the truth. We agreed on neutral ground. A park, of all places. Public, casual, no furniture to throw or doors to slam. Classic suburbia, paved walking trails, duck pond, a few retired folks walking dogs too small for their own leashes. I arrived early. Jennifer didn't, which, in hindsight, was fitting. She'd always been the kind of person who made others wait, not out of malice, but out of belief that she was worth it. She showed up 12 minutes late, wearing sunglasses and a windbreaker like she was trying to pass for anonymous. She walked toward me slow, cautious, like I might be holding a weapon. I wasn't. Just a coffee cup. Decaf. Already cold. Hi, she said, tentative. Hey. She stood there for a second, then sat beside me on the bench, exactly 1 seat away. Not close enough to touch, but not far enough to be a stranger. We sat in silence. Ducks quacked somewhere off to the left. Then she said it. I didn't think you'd actually come. I almost didn't, I said, flat. Jennifer pulled off her sunglasses. Her eyes looked tired, not from crying, but from the stress of holding together the image she'd built. She was unraveling, and she knew it. I don't know where to start, she said. Try the truth, I said. For once. She winced. I deserve that. You deserve a lot of things, I said. Let's keep going. Jennifer looked at the ground. I was going to tell you. After the pitch. After the launch. It just kept getting pushed. You mean the launch where you got pulled from the project without explanation? She blinked. You knew. I'm aware of more than you think. A pause. I'm sorry, she said finally. I didn't answer. Sorry didn't mean much at that point. It was just a word people used when their plans blew up. I didn't plan for this to happen, she added. Lies usually start that way, I said. Accidents, impulses, little moments that spiral. But eventually they become choices. You planned a wedding while married. That's not a lapse, that's logistics. Jennifer shook her head. Christian, it was never about him. It was about me. I felt stuck, boring, predictable. I wanted something that made me feel alive again. And you thought the solution was to blow up your entire life? I thought I could manage it, she admitted, barely above a whisper. And how's that working out? She didn't answer. You lost the pitch. Your reputation's shot. Your friends are, let's call them, reassessing. And your new fiancé? He's realizing you come with more baggage than a TSA terminal. Her mouth tightened. He doesn't understand the pressure I was under. He will, I said. Eventually. We sat again in silence. Not the awkward kind, the honest kind. The kind where two people know the damage is permanent, and neither wants to keep pretending it isn't. I don't blame you for walking away, she said. That's good, I said. Because I'm not coming back. She looked at me then. Really looked. Like she was searching for a crack. A flicker. Some leftover version of me that might be holding out hope. She didn't find it. What we had, she started, wasn't fake. No, I said. It was just temporary. That's not fair. Neither is betrayal. Her face hardened. There it was. The flicker of self-preservation. The version of Jennifer who never let herself be the villain. Who always had a justification, a fallback, a plan B. You acted like everything was fine, she said, pivoting fast. Like we weren't drifting. You didn't fight for us. I was fighting, I said. You just weren't there. She crossed her arms, exhaled slowly, and for the first time, didn't say anything back. That was the real moment. The one where she understood I wasn't another husband waiting for redemption. I wasn't waiting for her to cry, or beg, or rebuild. I was already gone. Why are we here? I asked. Really? She hesitated. Then said it. I wanted to know if you hate me. I stared at her. No, I said. I don't hate you. That would imply I still care enough to feel something. That landed. Hard. Her eyes started to well, but she didn't let them fall. Not yet. You don't miss anything? Not even the good parts? I thought about it. The late-night drives. The dumb jokes during credit card commercials. The way she used to squeeze my hand under the table when she disagreed with someone at dinner. But those weren't her. Not anymore. I miss who I thought you were, I said. But that version of you? She doesn't exist. Maybe she never did. Jennifer swallowed hard. I'm not evil, she said. I just got lost. Yeah, I said. And I'm done waiting for you to find your way back. We sat one last time in silence. Then she said, so that's it. That's it. She stood, adjusted her windbreaker, wiped under her eyes, then nodded like she'd just been sentenced and decided not to appeal. Well, she said, thanks for meeting me. Good luck, I said. And I meant it, because she was going to need it. She turned, walked away, not fast, not slow. Just final. No glance back. I stayed on the bench for another 10 minutes, just watching the ducks and breathing. It wasn't relief, exactly, or closure. It was more like standing on solid ground again after a long, weird dream, and knowing, for the first time in a long time, that I didn't need to explain myself to anyone. The thing no one tells you about the end of a marriage is how normal the days start to feel after. Not immediately. The first few weeks are a mess of paperwork, canceled plans, people awkwardly asking, how are you? When what they really mean is, tell me the gossip. But eventually, the silence stops echoing. You get used to it. And then, one day, you like it. I wasn't planning some grand reinvention. I didn't run off to Europe or shave my head or get a tattoo of a phoenix on my shoulder. No inspirational quotes on my mirror. No self-care routines with lavender candles. I just started living like I didn't have to keep proving anything anymore. I sold the house. That was easy. Jennifer tried to stall the listing, claimed she needed time to figure things out. But she lost that ground the moment she signed a contract with another man while still married to me. My attorney handled it. Efficiently. It went on the market on a Monday. Sold by Thursday. I left the key under the mat, along with a note that read, take whatever you want from the attic. I already took what mattered. She never replied. What did I take? Not much. A box of old photos I hadn't looked at in years. My grandfather's watch. A leather chair she always said didn't match the aesthetic. I didn't want anything else. The rest of it? Stuff we bought during years I now considered fictional. Props from a show that got canceled mid-season. Christian tried to reach out once. Through a mutual acquaintance, which was both cowardly and perfect. He'd heard things were complicated and wanted to clear the air. Said he wasn't trying to hurt anyone. Sure, Christian. He wasn't the villain. He was the plot device. A mirror Jennifer found flattering. One that reflected back a version of herself she missed, younger, desired, unburdened by a husband who paid the bills on time and asked her how her meetings went. I ignored him. There was nothing to say. I wasn't about to start some petty back and forth over a woman who treated commitment like a gym membership, good until it got inconvenient. The people in our circle started choosing sides, quietly. Some called to check in. Translation, sniff around for drama. Others unfollowed, unsubscribed, uninvited. That was fine. I didn't need applause. I just wanted peace. And peace, surprisingly, showed up on a Tuesday. I'd just gotten off work. The apartment smelled like takeout and laundry detergent. I was putting on a record, a real one, not a playlist. Something bluesy. The kind of music that sounds like moving on. And for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about Jennifer. I wasn't angry. I wasn't imagining conversations or alternate timelines. I was just there. Present. I used to think closure came with some final declaration. A perfect comeback. A big moment that makes everything click. But mine came quietly. Like this. I was checking the mail, flipping through credit card offers and grocery flyers when I saw her name. Not Jennifer's. Mrs. Jennifer Decker. Same cursive envelope. Same return address. A bridal boutique. I didn't open it. Just stared at it for a second, then smiled. Because the last time I checked, there was no wedding. Christian called it off 3 weeks after our final conversation in the park. Word travels fast when people start canceling vendors. Apparently, he found out about the full timeline, our overlap, the lies, the vow drafts written before the divorce was even filed. Something about trust issues. You don't say. Jennifer didn't tell me. Of course not. But it got around. A friend of a friend mentioned it over drinks. Said she looked stunned when he walked out. Like she thought she was still in control of the narrative. She wasn't. I dropped the envelope into the trash without a second thought. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went on a date. Nothing flashy. Just coffee. Her name was Rachel. She worked in IT at a company across town. Smart, funny, grounded. She asked me what I did and didn't pretend to be fascinated. That was refreshing. We talked about books, podcasts, That awkward moment when you realize your ex has become a cautionary tale at dinner parties. I didn't tell her the whole story. Not yet. She didn't need the whole history, just the version of me that survived it. The man who didn't stay broken. Who didn't carry bitterness like a briefcase. I don't believe in silver linings. But I do believe in perspective. I used to think being cheated on meant I'd failed, as a partner, as a man. But the truth is simpler. I was honest in a dishonest marriage. That's not failure. That's character. Jennifer didn't break me. She just freed me from the story she was trying to write without me. And now, I'm writing my own. Subscribe to the channel